Hi guys, what it is, it's your girl Cadillac on this first day of May. Actually, it's the second day of May now because I am up early in the AM. It's almost 3 a.m., but I'm trying to get the next part of this video out. Um, as usual, I want to thank every single person that is sharing these videos, that is commenting, that is trying to help me get some traction and some movement with this case. Thank you so much across all platforms that I'm trying to get my Instagram back up running on a regular basis, and YouTube and Facebook, everywhere. And I've actually been told I need to start a TikTok, so I'm going to start that very soon. I just really need his story out. I need him out of prison. He's done a lot of time, and it's like it's enough. He's been screwed almost every way you can be screwed. So it's time to let him live. I've spent most of my life fighting for him instead of being with him. We've been fighting for our family, but we've had much less time actually being a family. So it's so crazy. So I'm ready for that chapter to close. It's too much. It's a lot. And I know we are not the only family. There is a lot of other families in the same position as us, and oh my gosh, it's just so sad. It's so sad how little our lives are valued and how little our whew. Anyways, let me get into part 3. And this is actually where I left off. I was showing before we went into the court and just the interaction with the victim slash witnesses. It was really weird. Like, I didn't understand like how they weren't so deathly afraid of Marchello, but they act as though they were that night in question. All of that, none of it seems, it makes no sense. Okay, so let's get to the trial. This is the day of trial, the reaccount of inconsistencies slash it don't add up, and none of it to me adds up. When we showed up at the second trial date, Marcello's lawyer said he was able to get both to come to court. They were questioned separately in the courtroom. Their stories had inconsistencies and conflicted with one another. I used to remember the inconsistencies word for word, but now it's been so long, I don't know, but I do know that it's in the transcript. I do remember what they were about, though. Okay, so the first inconsistency was the way that they say they got in the back seat. It did not coincide with one another. So they said that Marcello came up to the driver's side, asked did he have a cigarette. He put his head down to look for a cigarette, and when he lifted his head, he just felt cold steel against his nose. And then that's when they said that Marcello proceeded to get in the car and try to take off, but he realized he couldn't drive a stick shift. So he made his cousin come around, become the driver. He got in the passenger seat, and the guys were forced into the back seat. So the way that the guys got in the back seat did not coincide with one another. And one said that Marcello made them get out and run around to get into the back seat. When the other one was questioned, he said, no, Marcello would not let us out the car. He made us crawl across the seat. When they picked up that the story was different, it was asked again, are you sure you didn't get out and go around? And they said, no, Marcello would not let us out. And remember that they were questioned separately. One had to sit outside the courtroom and be questioned, and the other one was questioned. So when one would answer a way that was not like the first one answered, they would question it again, and they would repeat that different answer, I guess, just to make known that these are two different answers. Okay, number 2. The money they said that Marcello robbed from them did not add up. During the trial, the judge said you cannot charge Marcello with robbery because the money does not add up to the amounts that they said was taken from them. It's not the same amount that Marcello was found with, so it doesn't make sense to where the other money is. The judge got loud when he was talking about this issue. Marcello was picked up with $20 because he just got paid that day from work. The judge said the money don't add up. You can't charge him with robbery. So they dropped the two charges of armed robbery, but then the state kept saying, well, he tried to rob them. He tried. So the judge said, I'll allow it to be picked back up as attempted robbery. That is why one of his counts carry only 30 years for attempted robbery. However, when we look back into the record, it seems as though they only fixed one count of the attempted robbery. The other one still reflects armed robbery. So now he's charged with armed robbery and attempted robbery. The attempted robbery carried 30 years. That's why on one of the counts he have 30 years and the others he have 40. Number three, also the victim slash witnesses were asked how did they get their wallets back? Those stories as well did not line up with one another. Number four, one of the witnesses slash victims was very shaky and fidgety the whole time. Even while testifying, the whole time the guy is just jerking and shaking, and I don't know if that was nervousness or it was just weird. Number five, there were other discrepancies made from the police that testified. One tried to say that Marcello tried to run. One said that he did not try to run. After being questioned, they came to the conclusion that Marcello did not try to run, but actually walked up to the lady officer when called. So the police, they all had conflicting stories. One was saying, oh, he tried to run. One saying, no, he didn't try to run. And after being questioned, it was determined Marcello never tried to run. Number six, everyone testified that Marcello was in the passenger seat. Their accounts of what the driver's description did not match up. They were saying the driver was taller, shorter, darker, lighter. The descriptions were all over the place, but they could positively describe Marcello as a black guy with dreads. That doesn't make sense. So their accounts of what that driver looked like, they were all over the place. There was nothing that all over the place, but they all positively could ID Marcello. Number seven, the only defense that Marcello's crime specialist put up was when one of the victims slash witnesses wrote their statements. They ended the statement with a smiley face, and who that was just robbed and taken from their destination would end the statement with drawing a smiley face. All the stuff that man had that he could have based his trial on, that is what he based his trial on, a smiley face. He had this big old paper, like a big tablet, and he drew a big old smiley face and he was pointing at it and this and that. Like, that's what his whole defense was based on. Who would draw a smiley face at the end of their statement if they were just robbed? Isn't that crazy? Like, huh? That was so weak. Number eight, I watched as during the recess, Marcello's lawyer and the state lawyer would laugh and joke with one another. They passed each other Altoids. It was like the trial was a show and the commercial break was the recess. See, this was our lives, but to them, it was just their jobs. We went to recess and we thought that Marcello was coming home because they had been caught in so many different lies and there were so many different discrepancies during trial. We really thought that he was finna come home. We really did. The last recess, the crime specialist, he said, why don't you, he first asked him, did he want to be sentenced that day or did he want a sentencing date? And we didn't understand that, but he was saying, well, with a sentencing date, you can get character statements together and present them to the judge, and maybe the judge will go lighter on him. I couldn't find a soul to write a statement. I wrote the only statement, basically his baby mama, so that was really credible. But at the last recess, the crime specialist was like, go outside, out the courtroom and spend some time with your lady or whatever. And we was like, why? We about to go home. And he was like, no, go outside for a little while and y'all, you know. So we thinking, whatever. They getting caught in lies, they lying. It's too much going on. You going home, they don't have anything on you. But little did we know. That's crazy. Little did we know how it was about to change. Okay, this slide is a continuation, the day of trial. And this is the reaccount of the deliberation and the jury's questions. Okay, the jury came back with two questions. One, they asked, did anybody know that the two were cousins? The judge said, that doesn't matter. That doesn't have anything to do with this, and I'm not going to answer that question. The second question the jury asked was if they can have a copy, each of them can have a copy of the transcript to go over a few things. At this point, the judge went off and he said, what is the point of them even coming to jury duty if they're not going to listen? What were they doing here? Why do they need a copy of the transcript? He said, okay, they can get a copy of the transcript, but let them know they have to come back and get it tomorrow. And I guess they did not want to come back. They came back moments later without their questions being answered, with guilty in the highest on all charges. They were even informed that they can even charge Marchello without a weapon, which brings me to the fact. I don't understand how in the world they could have not found this weapon. They alleged that there was a weapon, and the gun enhancement is what is holding so much weight on Marcello's case. So why was the weapon never recovered? And how was he charged with the gun they never found? They never produced. The only evidence that the state turned in was a picture of the car, nobody in it, just a picture of the car, and a picture of Marcello separately, just a picture of Marcello with his dreads. That was the state's evidence. That's what the state turned in for evidence. That's not evidence. That's nothing. In this whole ordeal, all stories, nobody was shot, killed, hurt in any way. And the gun that they said that he had, they cannot find and never recover. It was also stated that there are none of Marcello's fingerprints recovered as well. How did they get to the conclusion of 40 years? Okay, so this is a interview that I did with my aunt, and she went in on this interview. I'll link that in the description. This is a good one. And that slogan, I got that because I was like, every big case has a slogan. Like, and I thought about the OJ trial, and it was, if the glove does not fit, you must acquit. So that's what acquit, I'm sorry. So that's why I came up with no body, no crime, no time. Of course, there was no body in the case with Marcello. Nobody was killed. But it's just saying it's trying to get a attention grabbing headline. Florida man charged with robbery without a weapon. How if the glove does not fit, you must acquit. Florida man arrested. They charged Mr. Jackson with armed robbery even though they never found the alleged weapon used in the alleged armed robbery. There was also no other evidence that even pointed Marcello even committing the alleged crime. None of Mr. Jackson's fingerprints were ever found as well. Nothing tangible connected Marcello to this alleged robbery. Okay, so after the jury made their decision, they went out, they deliberated, came back. The deliberation was so short. Now talking with people and watching so many like TV trials and all types of stuff and articles and stuff, deliberation actually can last a long time. And actually going through another trial with my rap partner that I had in the early 2000s, that deliberation lasted that whole day and we came back, and a lot of that second day they were still in deliberation. Well, in Marcello's case, deliberation was less than an hour. It was really quick. The judge denied those questions being answered. Well, the first question being answered. The second one, I guess the jury really did not want to come back. And so they didn't get that one answered. So there was two unanswered questions. But they were able to still make a sound decision, which makes no sense, but they were. Okay, so this slide here is like when he's reading that off. And this scene is when the judge was reading the verdict. All I hear is charge after charge, guilty in the highest, guilty, guilty, guilty. Every time that word hit my eardrum, I would let out a moan. I couldn't hold back my emotions. That would be like me trying to stop my heart from beating or my lungs from inhaling. The judge told me if I couldn't be quiet, he would hold me in contempt of court. Of course, I couldn't contain my cries, so I ran out the courtroom. As the police started to handcuff him, he looked over at me and said, "Can I please just give her a hug?" They said, "No, you're coming with us." After sentencing day, after trial, I was told to leave the courtroom by the judge because I could not hold back my tears. And if I was not able to be quiet, which I was just whimpering, they would hold me in contempt of the court. I ran outside and down the escalator and fell to the ground in the street in front of the courthouse and just laid there and cried. I laid there until I seen his lawyer, the crime defense specialist, come out the courtroom. He had a sentencing day. On sentencing day, I was the only one that gave a character witness. There was this lady, I'm not sure what organization she was from, but she was recommending that because Marcello did not have priors, and how that doesn't make sense. Most times, if someone is going to do this type of crime, they would have had some type of rap sheet. No one just bursts out and commits all these crimes from nowhere. He should just get 6 months boot camp. And that was what they were recommending for him. The judge said if this was his son, of course he would want someone to be lenient on him. But he believes that if Marcello Jackson was not stopped, these two guys would be dead. And Marcello needs to feel the wrath of what he did every day that he wakes up for the rest of his life. And the judge also went on to say that he wants to give Marcello life for this incident. But just so he has a second shot at life, he will only give him 40 years. So that one day he will be free. I just could not believe it. So you see the pictures, the first illustration, me running out that courtroom. Then I'm laying on the ground in the street, just laying there crying. It wasn't until I seen his lawyer come out and I got up and I approached him. And before I can even get to him, that's when he asked me a question. He was like, "Do you know why he got so much time?" I said, "Yeah, I know why he got so much time, because he was black." He said, "Yeah, that really is the only reason he got so much time." And that's when he told me, "Now you're going to have to find someone that is going to fight for his life." And he left the conversation saying that you're going to have to get an appeal now. And he said that, "Oh, don't worry, he'll only do about 10 years on this." And that was the last interaction. Well, there was one more interaction with that lawyer, but I haven't got there yet. So that was trial. That was the sentencing day. And also on that sentencing day, that lawyer served me a paper. But I will get into that on the next video. And just stay tuned. I'm trying to get them out as soon as possible. Thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe. I do have some more lighthearted and things, but right now I need my husband home, like for real. Like Honestly, I try to do other things, and I do have some of my regular, prison wife videos. But I desperately need my husband home now. They're taking things way too far. They have terminated our visits. I was the only one going to see him. They got him almost 7 hours, 6.5 hours away from home, way out in the country. That is not good. When nobody's going to see a person, they feel like they can do anything they want to them. And it's just time for him to come up out of that. Okay, thank you guys. It's your girl Cadillac. It's your girl Cadillac.